Let's look at economics TC5, one of the modules in the diploma level. So this is TC5 economics, and we'll be using this manual throughout this course. Right. So you have to have copy of this, digital or hard copy. So the whole concept of economics is easy, right? Economics is just to do with the allocation of limited resources or scarce resources. Because we do not have all the resources in the world to do whatever we want, right? Then we should make choices on how we are going to allocate these limited resources. In a nutshell, that's what economics is all about. So we'll look at a lot of models, a lot of concepts in this particular subject. So in terms of the table of contents, we will basically cover 13 chapters. 13 chapters are actually being divided into two major categories, right? In terms of their branches. From chapter 1 to chapter 5 is what is called macroeconomics. Macroeconomics. And from chapter 6 to chapter 13 is what is called, chapter 1 to chapter 5 is what is called microeconomics. And from chapter 6 to 13 is what is called macroeconomics, right? These are the two branches of economics, and they are divided into these following topics. So in macroeconomics, we'll look at chapter 1, the nature and scope of economics. Chapter 2, demand and supply analysis. Chapter 3, theories of the household. Chapter 4, the theory of a firm. And chapter 5, factor markets and distribution of incomes. Under macroeconomics, we'll look at macroeconomics, right? Then the demand for supply of money, then the natural income analysis, then Keynesian model, then public finance, then business cycles and economic growth, then 12 economic development and policies, and 13 international trade and finance. That's the table of content. All right. Now, let's look at what is the aim of this course, TC5. So, the aim of this course is to enable you to understand the basic principles, concepts and techniques of economics and enable you to apply these concepts, principles and techniques to current issues and problems with special reference to Malawi, right? That's basically the aim of learning economics in our syllabus in the diploma level, right? To understand the concepts and the principles and techniques in economics and be able to apply these to current situation and problems that are specific for Malawi economy, right? So, the overall learning objective of the whole module is basically, by the end of this chapter, you should be able to define and explain the concepts and tools that economists use to address the fundamental economic problems of scarcity, explain the different types of economic system, explain how market system works to ensure efficient resource allocation, describe the operation of a price system, understand the concept of utility and indifferent curves and how they are used in making choices in maximizing utility, that is satisfaction, amongst the competing ones with limited resources, explain production and cost decision, determine cost and revenue structure and profit maximization, describe different market structures, describe factor markets and income distribution, explain the role of money, credit, and financial institution in determining national output, use of macro variables to measure the performance of the economy at a national level, explain the consumption and saving, investing, and the business cycle, explain the role of public finance, fiscal policies, and monetary policies in influencing economic performance, describe the objective of macroeconomics policies, explain the causes of poverty and underdevelopment, explain the operation of international trade and the payment system, and lastly, explain the effects of globalization on the national economy. So you can see that this module or this course is very important for us because it actually relates to what's basically happening in Malawi in terms of the economy in Malawi. Some of this stuff you will relate to current affairs, right? So you actually be able to now to understand what it meant when they said the fiscal policies, right? And underemployment and so on. All these concepts will be actually explained in details as we go from chapter to chapter. So let's now look at the format of the exam paper. So the examination paper will actually be divided into two sections. So you have section A, which is dealing with the macroeconomics. So we're talking about the first 5 chapters. And the first 5 chapters is actually worth 40 marks. Section A is worth 40 marks. So section B will contain 3 questions, right? No, this section will actually contain 3 questions, right? 3 questions, but you have to choose 2, right? And section B, right, is to do with macroeconomics. And you do have what? 4 questions. You have to choose 4. I'm not sure if the format hasn't changed yet. I'm not really sure if the format hasn't changed yet. But first section, it will be microeconomics. The first 5 chapters, 40 marks. The second will be macroeconomics. The next 8 chapters, that's chapter 6 to chapter 13, and that will be worth 60 marks. So it's very important to actually know how much time you should spend on all the sections there. So the actual section is actually describing what we are supposed to actually know in each of the topics that we are going to learn. So I don't want us to sort of spend our time looking at each chapter because we'll actually look at them as we go into each of the topic. So I'll actually look at what are the learning objectives in there so that we have a broader idea of what we should expect to learn in that chapter. So basically, that's what we're going to do. But one thing that you should be aware of is that in terms of the exam, there are things that you should be aware of in terms of things that you have to know. One thing, this paper has a lot of graphs. So sketching graph is something you have to be good at, right? Graphs, right? A little bit of some few calculations, right? Calculations. So you have to be a little bit good at the calculations that are to do with this. Being able to explain concepts and theories in economics. If you can be able to actually be good at these, you have a better chance of passing this exam with flying colors. Graphs is a must to know, right? Right? To know, to sketch a graph and interpret it. A little bit of calculations, not a lot of calculations, but a little bit of calculations are also going to be required. And lastly, explaining different concepts right? Concepts and principles. If you can be good at all these areas, that means you will actually have a better chance of passing this exam with good grades. So that's what we should actually know about this paper. Thank you.